Hello and welcome to another episode of A Podcast. Your host, Stephen Maxted, and today we have Marissa Naylor. I know we have marketer and photographer listed on here, but there's really a way bigger title I feel like you need leading into this, as we were just chatting before about everything that you do. And maybe we'll have to add it on in the bio for sure. But
Yeah,
yeah, Marissa, thanks so much for making time
thanks for having
to
me.
hop on here today. And you know what? Let's start by handing the mic over to you and introducing yourself a little bit more. And I think it'll just probably still be the tip of the iceberg for everything that you do.
Yeah.
But let's start with that, and let's get into it.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah. So the title is marketer and photographer, but if I could fit three words in there, I would add athletics as well, or bowling specifically. So yeah, my background is in marketing coordinator at Stu Clark Center for Entrepreneurship at the University of Manitoba. We help ignite students' entrepreneurial mindset and basically bring them in and help them start ventures, whether that be a full-time entrepreneurship business or it could just be a side hustle. And then yeah, so outside of my marketing coordinator position there, I'm a wedding and brand photographer, and I started my business in 2015 and have grown it to six figures in the last 10 years, which it's 10 years coming up this June, which is pretty crazy to think. And outside
Cool.
of all of my activities and the office and behind the camera, I'm typically on the bowling alley or the golf course. So yeah, I'm a Team Canada bowler, and we've traveled across the world the last couple of years, which has been super fun. We've been to Kuwait, Reno, and Peru in South America, which is super cool. And then this year we're potentially going to Hong Kong, so something to look forward to there. But and then on the summertime, you can find me on the golf course. I'm a member at Niagara Country Club, so a lot of business people coming around there. So it's always fun to see some people I know and on LinkedIn, off LinkedIn. So that's how we kind of like connect with people all the way around. But and then outside of sports and all that good stuff, I'm usually hanging out with my husband at home, and we're homebodies a little bit. So we're watching Netflix and chilling and just eating good food and loving life. So
Cool. I love that.
yeah.
It's just a casual drop of
Just a casual.
the golf, bowling, world touring, and you truly are doing it all. As we mentioned before, I think we want to cover that a little bit in today's
Yeah.
episode. But um, you've been doing the photography thing for about like 10 years. You're getting young minds into business.
Yeah.
What does a normal day look like for you?
Oh man. So every day is different. I will start by saying that. In a typical work week, my Tuesday, Wednesdays are the busiest because I basically go from work to bowling, and my bowling leagues are that night, or in the summertime, it's the office to a golf course. And so that is typically the normal day in a couple days of a week. But yeah, it's early morning, so usually wake up around 6:30, and then get ready for the day, take it pretty slow, and then yeah, get to the office. Pretty much a morning person when it comes to emails and stuff in the office. So we just jump right into it. And any big task that has to get done is usually done in the morning. So yeah, we work 8:30 to 4:30 with the team there at Stu Clark, and we joke around a lot of the day, which is nice because it helps the day pass by, but also mixes up the work a little bit. And then yeah, after that we go to either bowling practice or golf practice, depending on the season. Right now it's right to the bowling alley typically because we're preparing for upcoming tournaments. Tournament season is basically September to May, and then we prepare for Worlds depending on type of year. So this year it's in November, but some years it could be in August. And so that preparation kind of continues throughout the whole year. And then on days where I'm not bowling, there's workouts and just kind of balancing that all together. And in the summertime, my weekends are all filled up typically with weddings. And so I'm photographing weddings, whether that be in Winnipeg or around surrounding areas. So my furthest wedding I've actually gone to is in BC, which is super exciting. We're going back to BC in July for a good friend's wedding, actually, that they're trusted me in photographing, which is pretty special, especially being a close friend. And yeah, so in the
Yeah,
summer, it's pretty golf oriented to photography, and then golf and bowling and all that kind of in between there. But from a
awesome.
winter standpoint, it's usually bowling first and then after golf. And all the sports are kind of around each other. So, but that's typical day, and then a week is that's a bigger. Oh my goodness, that's a bigger dive into that. But yeah, so
Fantastic. And what got you into bowling?
my parents bowled when they
Yeah.
were yeah young married. I mean, my brother and I were like little craps, as they say, or little shits, and how I say to some of my friends. But yeah, we were about
Yeah.
5 or 6 years old when we were in the bowling alley, and I would always just play on my iPad or like play on my technology. iPads weren't really a thing for me back then.
Right.
I never even had a phone until I was like 14, actually. So I would always just kind of hang around the bowling alley, watch my parents bowl. And there kind of came a Friday night where I was like, oh, I kind of want to like try bowling. And so my sister did it, and then my brother Liam got into it, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna try this thing at like I think I was around like 5 or 6. I would say we were actually 6, 7. And then
Yeah.
I had a knack for it. I had a couple people come up to me. I remember when I was like really, really small, and they're like, hey, like you're kind of like a natural at this thing. I was like, oh, like what does a natural look like? I don't really know. And so I had success early on at 8 years old. I made my first we call it CTF provincials, which is the Canadian Tenpin Federation, so our main federation for bowling in
Cool.
Canada. And so yeah, we had success early on, and after that I was able to travel the country every year for the most part, seeing friends competing. And yeah, now we've kind of made it a bigger deal and representing our country. So
Very cool. That's
yeah,
awesome. I was,
yeah.
yeah, well, when when you were getting really good at bowling, I think I still needed the bumpers, as far as that goes, but it's always been something more recreational in my end, but I think that's fantastic. I mean, it's not, as common as sport. I mean, golf
Typical.
easy to relate
Yeah,
to into that,
yeah.
scene, but, yeah, had the curiosity there. And what do we were talking, for a minute before here, and what are some of the major connections you see between like your athletics and the business side of things that you do?
I think it's more the mental discipline and like the capacity of handling everything time management wise, but I would say discipline's a big one because um,
Yeah,
being an athlete, you just can't choose when you want to show up. You have to show up some days when you don't want to be there. Um,
right.
in the winter when it's minus 30 and it's cold and you don't want to go practice, you have to go
Yeah,
practice. And so I think it's the same thing goes for business, and entrepreneurship can be really alone. I know when I first started photography and just any business idea I had, it felt really alone until I found my community of people and the people that I could relate to. And so I
right,
think until you find that community, it does feel alone. I think that's the biggest thing is when business isn't going to plan or you're second guessing everything you're doing. It happens in bowling and golf the same way. Like especially in golf, I
right,
would say golf's more a little bit more mentally demanding, in my opinion, than bowling, just because no one's going to help you unless you have a caddy, and so you're literally on your own, just like entrepreneurship in a way, unless you have a team behind you. And so I think just like taking those skills that you learn in both and just transferring them however you can. Um, for me in bowling, it's like when I have a bad game or something, it's like if you have like a bad month in sales, just like an example,
right,
you're like, okay, you're going back to the drawing board. You're like trying to lay out everything that you just did. I know that happened to me like early January. I wasn't able to go to the Canadian team trials, and I was like kind of having to take a step back of like, okay, what's my plan for the year now? Just because I had gotten food poisoning. It was not a good start to 2025 at all. And I was like, okay, we kind of have to reset a little bit. And so I remember doing that in business early on when well, we all think we know what we're doing, I guess, but I didn't really realize until I was like, okay, I need to like take a few marketing courses and become more like in tune of like what I wanted to do. And so once I did that, that's kind of how I saw the correlation between both, because I was in university, I was learning a bunch of stuff, but I wasn't sure how that like applied to sports too. And so I think they just feed off of each other in a fun way, and that they kind of create that nice little like flow state in life too, where it's like if
yeah,
business is going bad, you can go move and like bowl or golf or just go for a bike ride, whatever it is, right? Whereas like if you're just in the office all day, it's like, hey, you're kind of feeling stuck. And so even as a 9 to 5 or 8:30 to 4:30 person, like I try and get up and just go for a walk to get the creative juices flowing. It's the same thing for anything else in life. So I think just using them together has been super fun.
I think that's awesome. And yeah, I mean, it's like a lot of the best ideas definitely don't come from just sitting around in a boardroom ultimately,
Yeah.
right? They come
Yeah.
from either maybe out on the golf course, at the bowling alley, or out
hmm
for that bike or that walk is truly where a lot of great ideas are born.
Yeah.
Um,
I can relate to that
yeah.
for sure. Yeah. I
What
remember
would,
my best idea came from bowling actually. Which
yeah?
was crazy. Yeah, I was
Well,
from I bowled my highest 4 game series, and funny enough, it's actually when my husband and I started talking and started dating. And I remember that next day I had like the best idea I had to like take my wedding photography to the next level. And it's just because I like with bowling, I wasn't thinking about it. So
right.
yeah, kind of like a fun little tip, I guess, for creatives is you don't actually have to be sitting at your desk, is you can do whatever you feel like you can move your body and kind of get your brain going a little bit.
No, I think that's awesome advice. Definitely something I try to do as well. Is just, hey, like
Yeah.
get out. If you're stuck with something, it's okay to have that whatever it is, maybe workout even scheduled midday.
Hmm.
Or if it's first thing in the morning, that's usually where I get a lot of the day flow going
Yeah.
in the pool or
Yeah.
on a
No, I
bike.
love that. I love
So
that.
yeah, that's no. What was one of the first things that you did, entrepreneurial on your
Hmm.
journey? I'm sure this didn't just start, or maybe it did start with this, photography side of things and continued
Yeah.
on for a bit, but there's usually something else brewing.
Yeah, no, it definitely did not just come out of nowhere. I was in high school and I took a retail marketing course, or retail and business is what it was called. And my dad suggested it to me and he was like, "Hey, like you need an elective, why don't you try this?" And I was like, "I don't want business." I was like, "I don't know what I want, but I don't want business." And so
Right.
I obviously at that age you trust your parents, and you always trust your parents, but you trust your parents and be like, "Okay, take the course." And so I did, and it was actually one of my favorite courses that year. And I didn't realize how much I loved business and just loved the retail aspect of it and connecting with people. And so once I did that, I was in 2014. My next year was graduation year. And so my sister and my cousin were all getting married. And I was just picking up a camera and I was like, okay, photographing sports, because as an athletic person, or in athletics, you just photograph what you love. And so at sports, it was. And I was given a bunch of gear actually by a good friend of mine. His name's Kerry Lauder. He's one of the best sports photographers in Winnipeg. And he is phenomenal. And he was like, "Hey, I just want you to go shoot." I'm like, "Okay, sure." And I wasn't a creative person when it came to like drawing or like painting or anything. Like all of my friends and family know, like, do not give me a paintbrush, do not give me any sort of crayons. Like it just does not work. But if you give me a camera, I can do that. And so he gave me the camera, gave me some gear, and I was like, okay, this is fun and all, but like, what am I gonna do? And so he gave me a camera for my sister's and my cousin's wedding. Went out for like the 10-hour wedding, just shot everything and anything. And I kind of
Okay.
felt a sense of like flow when I was doing it. And that's when I was like, okay, like this is super cool, but like, how do you make money at this thing? Right. And I
Right.
remember someone coming up to me at the wedding and they're like, "Oh, like, do you do this?" I was like, "No, like, I'm super rookie at this thing. Like, I don't even know what I'm doing." And
Right.
so I remember actually looking at those pictures the other day and I was like, okay, people paid you for this stuff. Like, that's kind of crazy. But we all start somewhere, and I think that's where it just felt like this was a creative outlet for me that was just really fun, and also like helped me get through university and kind of figure out who I am as a person, to be honest. And when I was
Cool.
doing that during university golf, it was just a nice balance because you have a demanding schedule as a college athlete, you can have a creative side, and then it's also how I really found my marketing passion in the end of things, because I, again, never really saw myself in business, thought it was really cool, didn't really think it was a thing for me, but I was like, okay, just kind of trust the path you're going on, right? And sure enough, it kind of, yeah, is all piecing together pretty nicely, I would say.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Uh, and do you often feel like you are in kind of like a flow state? It seems like you're just like your schedule and everything is just kind of like a puzzle piece, So
It's funny. I had one of my friends come up to me. They're like, "Hey, could I mic you up for a week?" And I was like, "A whole week?" I'm like, "You'll get a lot of footage, but like, I don't know if you can follow me around for a week." And it kind of made me
right.
think of like just how busy things are, but it's also that you don't see everything online, and I think that's something we have to remember as like marketers, but just as people, because there's some days that it is hard. Like I think also now being a wife, like that's a very committed thing. That's nothing you take lightly, of course. And so prioritizing like all my relationships in that in the midst of everything else is can be tricky. But I think with being in college golf for that 5 years really taught me time management, and that there's times to pick up
Right.
social media and engage, and there's times to be like, okay, do not disturb is on. You need to get to work. And so I think that really taught me a lot in that 5 years that I've really taken into my career now. If I didn't do college golf, I don't also think I would be the same person I am today, just because that team aspect and that what it teaches you, just being an athlete, let alone university and everything else that comes with it, just teaches you a lot. So I think I've become a pretty good planner in that regard. I've taken those skills, and I'm a big goal setter too. So I just lay everything out. And if my planner's not looking like it should, or if there's something that's not in there, then it probably won't happen, is what I always tell myself. I was like, just go by the planner,
Right.
which is super nice. But some days you definitely want to just put the phone down and have a chill day, which I try to like personally block one of those days off every week or evening, or every like one weekend a month. So it's nice to do that, because then you can get that family time and just do other stuff that you maybe don't have time to do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's
Pretty cool.
fantastic. Yeah. No, I love that highlight. I'm kind of like, oh my gosh, what a good story. And I get lost watching the or listening to you talk right there.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, that's
it's
fantastic.
crazy. Yeah.
On the golf side of things,
Mhm.
where's the furthest away golf course or like travel where that's taken you on the university side? Where did you used to
Yeah.
go and play?
So university, yeah, so I was on the University of Manitoba golf team, on the girls team there. I was the captain for 5 years, and we really traveled across, like, we went to BC a lot for Canada West and to,
Cool.
for, like, our conference championships is basically what it was, and then we were down south in North Dakota a lot, so we went to Marshall, Bemidji, like, Grand
Sweet.
Forks, Jamestown, like, all that area. Yeah, so it was I actually never saw myself going into college golf, actually, similar to photography, but I was a decent golfer when I was a junior, but there was a lot of better golfers than I was for sure. And I was approached by Brianne Tekaruski, who's one of the best lady pros in our country now. And so when she came up to me in 2017, she's like, "Hey, you're already in university. Do you want to do this?" And I was like, "Well, obviously." I'm like, "I'm not saying no to this." And it was kind of a nice thing in that story too, just because I wanted to keep doing bowling, but I knew that
Right.
if I went on a golf scholarship, bowling would have been done. So um, for me to do bowling, golf, and photography and pursue a degree was just really, really special. And not many people can say that, which is kind of just fun in that in itself, but also the fact that I was just able to do it all and learn from it. Because I know a lot of my colleagues went down south and they had an awesome time, but it's like now they just do
Right.
golf for fun. And it's like, no, like I was able to do bowling and continue bowling, but now do bowling on a bigger level. And I still golf a ton, but from a competitive level standpoint, bowling is much higher than golf. But golf all just teaches you a lot more, I think, than bowling does, just from again a mental perspective and being on the course and only having your
Right.
caddy. And depending on who your caddy is, typically it's my brother or a good friend. And I can get pretty hot headed on the clubs sometimes. So it's like you kind of want to make someone there that you know you can be hot headed with, or like say the odd swear or whatever it is, or break a club. I've never done that, but I mean I've seen it happen. That you want to be able to have that relationship too. And it kind of goes in every aspect of life with that too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, your, I'll say day gig, as it
Yeah.
were, at U of M,
Mhm.
that seems super niche. Is this kind of like a new thing that's going on? Because I don't remember that being available when I was in
Yeah.
university.
So Stu Clark definitely has been, so it's been there for 25 years actually. So it's been around for a while.
Okay.
I think it's just becoming more of a something that's being talked about because a lot of other faculties
Cool.
around the U of M are also engaging with it, and
Mhm.
that the U of M as a whole is like has innovation as one of their key parts in our strategic plan. And so I think having that at the forefront with everything else of like research and indigenous business and just everything incorporating together really I think it's just becoming more of a forefront, which is why Stu Clark is becoming more of a continued well-known area of Asper School of Business, but even just in the whole province of Manitoba, because students, like when I was a student, again, I didn't really see business as like the full-time thing. I also didn't know those resources were there. And so for me to kind of start at the U of M as a student and then kind of have my career go and give back to students who want to become entrepreneurs is just really special. And so we have a 5-person team. It's very dynamic. We all do a lot of stuff. But we do, yeah, primarily serve students in Asper, but obviously across the university. And we even have some students from science and engineering who have come to us and have started
Cool.
up their own ventures. And yeah, they've been really cool. Some of them actually hit Dragon's Den. One of them just got released on Dragon's Den actually. So it was, yeah, it's super cool
Sweet.
to see students go full circle like that.
And so, what specifically in this area, this Stu Clark, if I'm getting this right,
Mhm.
what makes this like part of Asper a little different, or are there specific courses that are offered through there, or what's
Yeah.
all going on?
Yeah. So Stu Clark is within Asper. We serve Asper students directly. They're like our primary students, so to say. And so we work with them in entrepreneurship classes. So our startup coach right now, Ben Isaacoff, is actually teaching one of the in classes, but it's also too
Cool.
that, yeah, they just kind of bring students in. Students can come to us, whatever that is, and we can help them with their venture. And so we really just try and market to Asper and then you go beyond that, especially with our bigger events. So like our New Venture Championships is an opportunity for students across North America to come to the Fort Garry Hotel and pitch their venture idea for like $60,000 in cash. So it's really a big event, but it's just different aspects of Stu Clark that are really for everyone. Again, Asper being our primary, but we really talk to all students across the U of M because anyone can do it. And we just look to really get the entrepreneurial mindset going into students and getting in their heads, because no matter what path you choose, being an entrepreneur, whether it be a side hustle or venture, teaches you so much, as we both know. And so
Mhm.
I think it's skills that really, like, the classroom is great, but they can't teach you everything in the entrepreneurship world. And I think a lot of the
Right.
skills I have wouldn't have come into my skill set because I was an entrepreneur. And so being an entrepreneur and kind of having that and showing students that is just really special, but it also kind of brings those two worlds together. So serving students in Asper and across the university, just kind of, again, making sure they know about entrepreneurship. And so there's a major in Asper for entrepreneurship and innovation that students can take. Um, it's very focused on like starting your own business or joining a family business, but it's also open to really anything that students are looking to do in entrepreneurship. So you don't have to really necessarily own your own business, because we want maybe to do that, but we don't end there. And so it's nice also
Right.
for Asper student side because they can do one major or two majors. And so I never knew that at the time, or else when I was an Asper student, I'd be like, oh, I could do two majors, but I was like, I'll just do a minor, and that was it. But for them, they can do like entrepreneurship and accounting, so they can kind of collaborate the two together, which is super fun.
Nice. That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah,
It sounds like a great, um, yeah,
it's a fun
course
gig. It
direction.
doesn't feel
Yeah,
work. Yeah, it doesn't feel like work most days. And I mean, just join the
that's
team
awesome.
in November. It's been yeah, it's been really special and kind of like a full circle moment too, because I mean, again, not seeing yourself an entrepreneur, being a shy kid in high school, not really knowing the whole career path that you're going on, it's kind of nice to see it all come together. And I think I'm excited for the next steps, because I mean, as a goal setter, you always have goals for like the next 5 and 10 years plus to go. But I think it's a really nice place now to be, and to be here for the next, yeah, however many years. So
Awesome. How is this specific area in Asper? Is it growing? Has it been about the same for the last bit, or what does this look like? I
yeah,
know that what we see online a lot of time is, like we said too, the social media stuff, like pumping up
yeah, highlight
entrepreneurship.
reels and stuff like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think from,
but
so I mean, to spit out like metrics and numbers would be fun, but I mean that's just a bunch of numbers, which is great. But for example, like the last 4 months, we've increased our social media reach to over 120%, which we haven't seen numbers like that since
awesome.
probably many years ago. But I think it's
Cool.
also just a different marketing focus now for Stu Clark. The
Right.
past marketing coordinator there was super talented. Her name was Lindsay Friesen. We didn't really have any crossover, but I hear it across the faculty just how everyone loved her so much, and so I was just trying to level her work as much as I can. And so, kind of
Totally.
bringing in a more like maybe strategic lens has been super fun too, because we're really focusing our efforts across digital platforms, but also just making sure we're really connecting with students and using our team the best we can, which is really going into faculties and going into classrooms and talking to students about entrepreneurship and kind of getting through them of, hey, like you can do this and science, or you can do this and engineering, or whatever it is, because you don't have to just do one thing. So I think it's just really dynamic the way we're doing our strategy right now, and I think it's only going to get better. I mean, I feel like I'm biased in that because I'm the marketing coordinator, but like have confidence it's definitely going to get better. So at least I hope it does, or else we're going to definitely have to go back to the drawing board. But I mean, with our biggest event coming up in April, it's going to be a very full event. We have 32 teams for New Venture Championships. It happens in April. I'll do a
Cool.
little plug, I guess.
Yeah,
And
yeah, of
so,
course.
yeah, so it's April 25th to 27th. It's so 32 teams come from across North America to compete for, yeah, $60,000. We have 45
Cool.
veteran judges that come, yeah, including the Stu Clark, which is super nice. And yeah, so it's one of the most prestigious events Asper holds. It's our biggest event personally, or for Stu Clark Center. So it's yeah, we're really excited. I'm also just excited to pick out my outfit because our whole team is um very fashion friendly, I should say, is maybe the right word. And so our events
Cool.
manager like has very prestige fashion. So I'm gonna have to go to the suit shop and maybe figure out something. But that's a fun problem to have, I guess, in my current role, which is super cool. But yeah, the team is really dynamic. We do a lot of stuff, and just working with students is really special. So
What's maybe a little bit more about this event that's coming up? What are the details there? What it's is it What's the format? What's this? What are they competing?
Yeah, what do they do? Yeah.
How are they competing? What is
Yeah,
this? What are the
no,
tasks?
what do they have to go through to get there? So yeah, the application deadline to start off is March 4th, so it is coming up pretty quick. And it's open to undergraduate and graduate students. So we have two lines for students who are either in their undergrad or graduate. If you're a University of Manitoba student, everyone is open to apply, so you don't have to be in ASPR. You could be any faculty. We obviously love when ASPR students do apply, but we welcome any faculty in. And so students will go through so they do a business plan competition or business plan pitch, as well as a video pitch. And so both of those will have different prizes. And they do all of that on Saturday. So it's a very full day Saturday. And then the judges will determine our last few teams. And then from there, we'll go into our final round, which is on Sunday, which really is when we encourage all the general public to come watch, because it's the full, like, it's in the Fort Garry. So obviously, again, pretty prestigious place, but it's a pretty full event, and people you can feel the just the business side of things, but how passionate students are about these ventures. And we're excited to have potentially some media there as well, so it's going to be covered hopefully across the city is what we're hoping for. But yeah, so applications close March 4th. Our event manager Amy Jones handles the whole event, and she's been at Stu Clark for nearly 13 years, so she's a pro, and just kind of she does it in her sleep almost. It's pretty cool, actually. I'm just like watching. I was like, oh my gosh, how do you do this all so fast? But yeah, so I'm excited for that.
That's fantastic. No, that sounds great, and that's cool that it's at large of an event. And we're hosting it here locally in Winnipeg, and you guys have that kind of attention on there. Is it? I guess this event would be hosted here every year. Would that be correct?
Every year, yeah. So we have to host it every April, and so it's a yearly event. It's our biggest event. Or we say our flagship event. And so, it's basically the biggest event for us, but also one of the most prestigious ones for ASPR as well. I mean, there's always the idea dinner and all the Ignites and all these different big events, but this one I think just stands out for us just because it is our biggest event, but it also attracts so many different people. And it's also too that you're getting schools from literally across North America. So we have a lot of students come from like Arkansas, from like Wisconsin, and just everywhere that come. BC even has come, Ontario, so it's pretty cool to see like U of M stand out in these schools that have been doing this and for a while, but who repeatedly come to this competition, and a lot of them do win multiple times. So it's kind of actually funny to see like seeing similar faces, but just seeing their businesses develop too, because again, some of them have gone to Dragon's Den from what I've seen, and one of them was just released. His name's Tanashi. He owns a business called Intuition Pay, which basically helps graduate students. And so his episode was just released on Dragon's Den, and he won NBC. I think it was like 3 years ago. So talk about like something that's coming out of really like who was a student in NBC and in Stu Clark, and now is on the Den. Yeah, so it's pretty cool.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Can I dive into that one a little bit? So how does it help graduates do, or what was it doing there?
So for Tanashi's story, I don't know like too much about that one, but I do know that his story is he was a graduate student. He came to Stu Clark wanting to start a venture, had an idea, didn't know how to take it off though. And so he met with the startup coach or the venture coach at the time, and talked through a business plan, what his idea was, how he wanted to go to market. And they worked together on it, took it to New Venture Championships. And I don't remember the exact like award he won, but he won a significant amount of money to get him started. And like a couple years later, I think he just went on air with Dragon's Den last year in August. And the episode, just released, I think, earlier this month, which is pretty good timing actually. So
I'll have to go check that out. I think that's fantastic. There's, because the background on that show too, there's so many people that apply to be on, and they do go through that process. They only air so many, of that. So to get in the fold for, being aired, that's a pretty big deal.
No, it's even funnier too, because like the U of M feels like such a small place too, right? Like compared to UBC, U of A, Queens, like all these big universities, and we're equally as big. But when someone comes from Manitoba, it just feels a little bit more special, I think. And so seeing that, I know also like recently, Cranked Energy went on Dragon's Den, and she got a deal. I think I don't know for sure if she got a deal actually, but like her story too is just insane. Like especially again, female entrepreneur. It's like this is just super cool. So seeing stories like that just come from ASPR in general, let alone Stu Clark, is just it's something that's kind of fun just to see it happen and like, hey, this anyone can do this, right? So
No, I love that. Yeah, we've had Cheryl on the show. She's
yeah,
lovely. She's great
okay,
energy. Yeah.
okay. Oh, that's super sick.
I had a
Okay.
cranked energy bar earlier today, actually.
Oh,
So
oh, I
but
actually
no,
like had one
that's a
for
shame.
golf, and I was like, that's my favorite bar because I literally can't eat anything else because I'm just like, I just love cranked energy, so I'm just gonna eat the same thing. And also, if you're scoring well, why would you change it? So, I mean, that's one
Awesome.
thing.
No,
But
no, that's fantastic.
yeah.
It's kind of something you said earlier too stuck out for me. It was, I think you call it like the Jill of all trades.
Mm-hmm.
But we were kind of talking about like doing a mix of stuff in general, but something that's been mentioned to me before, I forget who said it to me, but they're kind of like, hey, if you want something done, you ask the busiest person you know, because they'll figure a
Oh,
way to like get things done. And I'm sure
yeah,
you're a lot like that in your journey, because um, I know in terms of having, yeah, like a day thing, a side thing, athletics, if your ability to problem solve is a little heightened, I have found, and often people would ask, like me, I feel like we'd be in similar rings in many ways of like
yeah,
how much spare time you really have. And so just
totally.
kind of automatically, you're just like, do you feel that way?
Totally. I
Yeah.
think we're always problem solving, especially in today's world. Like I was just saying this to another person too, like especially in marketing, everything is changing as we know it, and AI is like taking over the world. I don't want to say that lightly, but like we feel like it's taking over the world in a way.
Yeah.
And I think just like staying up to date with like marketing, let alone, but then incorporating other things in life, it's just you have to be really good at time management nowadays, no matter who you are and what you're doing, really. I think the
Yeah.
biggest thing is if you can really be able to like have set boundaries as a person and like know what you want as a person, but also be able to manage that time wise and plan out
Right.
your schedule each week and have a routine. It's really helpful. I know for me, if I get out of my routine, I was telling my Team Canada coach this, it's like everything's out of whack. And so when we go to competitions, it's like routine doesn't change regardless of like
Right.
where you are, what you're doing. And so we like harp on routine in everything we do for athletics. And I think it's the same thing for everyday life. And it's how I really get everything done. And when someone asks me if I have a full day and someone's like, oh, can you do this? I'm like, no, like don't try and ask me if I'm like definitely like busy that day. But I think it's also too that a lot of my circle knows my schedule or they know how passionate I am and how driven I am. Like my best friends know, they're like, Marissa, you have to slow down sometimes. I'm like, but no, I have like all this stuff I want to do. And they're like, okay, like calm down. And so um I was actually just FaceTiming one of my best friends the other day, and we were both goal setting just for the month. And so I remember joking with her. I was like, "Oh yeah, like I'll set like 5 goals for the month," and she's like, "Let's set like 3." And I was like, "What? How about 5?" And so it's kind of funny, like joking around with friends in that way, but just having those different mindsets. And I think being in
Totally.
athletics is super fun to like have a good group of friends that are all athletes. We all do similar things, whether it be entrepreneurship or not, or just business and or being just athletes in general is super cool because we can relate to the struggles, we can relate to the time management stuff, and when
Right.
things are not going well, we can kind of lean on each other, which is super nice. And it's fun to have that circle of friends, but also just to have that support system because behind again social media and everything, you don't see the support system that helps someone like me keep going or that kind of propel everything that I'm doing or people like us that are what we're doing because it's really them that are kind of keeping us going, really. And um,
Right.
I actually don't really give my support system enough credit sometimes. So I always tell them, I'm like, I did shut you out on a podcast. So that's for them today. But no,
That's
they
awesome.
don't get enough credit. But it's also the people behind the scenes because really I can throw a bowling ball and I can like make marketing plans and strategies and do the research and all that kind of stuff. But it's the people who make the sacrifice behind closed doors that kind of make it all really happen. So
That's awesome. I think that this is probably a easy segue, even probably
yeah.
maybe a little bit of an overlap question, but how do
Yeah.
you avoid not getting burnt out? It sounds like, you have lots on the go, and
On
for
the
other
go.
high performers out there, like it must kind of creep in at moments, but what's something that
Totally.
you do to avoid, yeah, going
Going
too
into
far,
that
burning that candle at two ends
yeah.
too far?
Oh
Yeah.
man, I can relate to that in so many ways, I feel like. But I think for me, it's honestly really kind of like almost looking at my husband and being like, okay, like you hit your point. And he often tells me this because I sometimes don't even know what that point is, which is
Right.
really a slippery slope. But again, going back to support system, if you can have people in your circle that know when you're getting to that edge, if you don't, it's super helpful. So my support system helps for that for sure. But when I get there, or if I get there, for me, it's first thing is just shutting down the phone in general. Just if you're texting me, you're gonna call me because I'm not gonna listen to your text or see your text. But it's actually really good for me before competitions because I think as athletes we get super anxious or we get super nervous because we're passionate about going to a tournament or if we're waiting on a pick or something. Like I just remember watching the FIFA US documentary and like when they got their picks, like they got so nervous. And I feel that in my core, just like with anything
Right.
in life of if you're waiting for big news. And so for that
Yeah.
and similar to burnout of just like meditation, slowing down, like just taking a
Cool.
day where nothing's planned, going with the flow of it, which is really hard for planners like myself can confirm, and that it's really
Yeah.
intentionally booking a day at like thermia, for example, or going for nails or doing like a girls' day with one of your best friends, going to a coffee shop just to change atmosphere. I did that lately and it really helped me just recharge because I have all these ideas. And even recently,
Yeah.
I felt like my head was spinning because I have all these amazing things going on. It's like, okay, you want to keep this moving, but you also just want to take care of yourself and athletic wise, everything that's coming up. And so I think it's really just knowing what your limits are. For me, I learned that actually last year in photography, or 2 years ago, sorry, when I took a good amount of weddings, but it's because of the COVID crossover that a lot of that
Yeah.
was pushed over. And so I had about like, I want to say like 25 or 30 weddings in a summer on top of working full time. And yeah, I mean, yeah, your face just said
Wow.
it all for me right there, Steve. I
Yeah.
was like, so I do that. And so
Yeah.
that's when I realized my burning point for photography. But I think it was also a lesson that was just bigger for photography of like, what does that balance look like for me? And so now learning that lesson, it's journaling every day, taking 5 minutes to literally
Cool.
just focus on your breathing, which
Hmm.
for any high performance people or not even high performance, but again, entrepreneurs, like it is actually super hard to do to close your phone for 5 minutes and breathe.
Yeah.
Like it feels like forever. And so doing that, actually learning that from my psychologists in the past has been just super helpful because I think one thing too from a mental health perspective is that we always think we're good. Like with social
Mm.
media, it's like, okay, like just check the box, right? I'm a big check the box person, but I think realizing when you need to check in with those people. So for me, again, having a psychologist and kind of like going to therapy in the past and having those people in your corner to check you at the door almost really helps because for people like me where I just keep going, it's like, okay, actually you going too far like a couple months ago, let alone now. And so that's what I kind of take that step back and just make sure the routine is still the same and really hone into that routine again, going closer to competitions because that's when life starts to kick in, but also when nerves start to get together and you feel a little bit more on edge. You're ready to go. You've done all this prep, but you still feel on edge regardless. And yeah, so I think meditation, journaling, and just really having the right people in your corner really helps. And if
Yeah.
you have to get rid of some people in your corner, that's life. It happens. um, I'm grateful for like literally every single person who has stuck with me the last 10 years and they have seen the good, bad, the ugly of it. Like it's pretty incredible to see who can stick around and also who just kind of they come in and out and you're gonna have people like that in your life. And I think it's just keeping a core of 5 people really helps too.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's
That's
pretty special.
no, definitely very relatable too on the,
Yeah.
yeah, the journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're moving at a different pace kind of thing. Sometimes it's not so easy to keep up with
Totally.
and just, even just be a part of each other's schedules.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it becomes a tricky thing with time.
Especially, I would
And
say even with, like, with marriage too, because for
yeah,
all the married or couples out there who are also entrepreneurs and who are also athletics and do all these other things, it's hard. Like, I don't think people actually talk about it enough of how marriage is
mhm,
always, like, not, I forget the saying of, like, roses and just kind of, like, it's not always green grass and sunshine, right? Like, there's tough days, and I think it's just remembering the vows that you made to each other, but also like building that strong foundation, which I'm glad my husband and I have when we first met 5 years ago. And yeah, so I think it's just again having the
yeah,
right people, but also realizing what you both need. And he is the first person to say yes to any crazy idea I have, so I'm pretty lucky in that way. And I mean, with his work, he's gone a lot, and so it's also a nice balance that we both can feed off of each other in that way. But
right.
when we're both together and we have like a long period together, we take advantage of it. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. What would be a piece of advice that you'd give to
Mm.
someone just starting on an entrepreneurial journey, or if they have this itch and they let's pretend maybe it's photography,
Yeah,
having your
yeah,
space or any
yeah,
athletics in
yeah.
university, what would be a piece of advice that you pass along?
Just start the thing, honestly. Like, I know for me, I was so scared. Like, I remember second guessing, and I still second guess ideas to this day, and I think we all do, but just start
Mhm,
it, do it, create the social account, create the newsletter, create the website, go to a networking event and just do it. Because you don't really realize what that uncomfortable situation is really going to do for you until you do it. And
mhm,
for me, I'm so glad I took the leap of faith and that I was told also to take the leap of faith, because if it's an idea and you've asked your friends about it and they've given you their honest feedback and that feedback is good, you should do it. That's one thing we tell students, entrepreneurs too, is that if you've asked your close circle, you've pitched your idea to them and they're like, okay, go do this because it's a good idea, then do it. And I think it's also too that a lesson that I've learned is like check your ego at the door. Like, as much as we all love what we
right.
do, all what we want to do is share our stories and just
Yeah.
share advice with others. And I think recently I've gotten into coaching bowling and kind of giving back to athletes, because I went through a period where I was like ready to put the balls away. And I was like, okay, the sport's done for me. I'm going into golf. And so I think really just checking your ego and realizing like we're all human and it's okay to like struggle a lot and then get back down, go back to the drawing board and start again. And so I think those two biggest things that I've learned and would say to anyone, again, entrepreneurship related or not, or even just working full time, is that check your ego and like ask for help, because you're not stupid. You're not anything for asking for help. I think we honestly sometimes wait too long to ask for help. I know I'm sometimes one of those people for sure. Is that like I'm like, oh, I'm fine. Don't worry about it. Well, I'm good. Next thing, like check the box, check the box. And it's like no, like
Right.
actually, you just need to take 5 minutes and breathe and like calm down for a second. And I think just learning that over the years makes you a better person, but also just creates a better life for you too. And that when you come across those scenarios, those situations where you're scared to take that leap or you really don't know about this situation and you just do it, it's like okay, that's the best thing I ever did. So for me, when I made that leap of faith to photography and even into marketing, but I would even say in bowling, to like make that leap to try out for Team Canada, that was a big leap for me that I really didn't know I could do. Like, I know saying that now, I know some of my friends are gonna be like, oh my goodness, Marissa, be quiet, but like genuinely did not think I could do that. And when you just also like trust yourself and you know in your gut that like you could do something, just go do it. No one's gonna hold you back. So
No, I think that's awesome. Very,
yeah,
very awesome advice
relatable.
to pass along. Yes, and very relatable as well.
Yeah.
There's what's the best way to follow your journey, your story?
Hmm.
Um,
Totally.
I guess social media handle wise, what would be the best way for someone to, yeah,
Follow along, yeah.
yes,
So my personal brand or my marketing and athletics is Marissa.Naylor on Instagram. And then photography wise, so clients and just kind of behind the scenes of the camera is Marissa Naylor Photography. So
cool.
either of those are good. I'm pretty like share a lot on both journeys, but sport wise is definitely yeah, Marissa.Naylor, which I'm sharing a lot more on there about just kind of the behind the scenes of athletes, because it's not really shown enough, I think. And yeah, being an athletics person, I think I want to show into that. And then yeah, on LinkedIn, just Marissa Naylor, happy to connect and go for coffee anytime. So
Fantastic. It's
love it.
been, yeah, we covered a lot. I think we're just getting truly, sorry, I said, a few times finishing episodes, but I feel like you really have this iceberg of, yeah,
Hmm.
things to share.
Yeah,
So I'm excited to continue to follow that person. I know we recently just kind of connected at some business events
good
locally here that
sessions
you
there.
that you host. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
another thing that you do.
yeah.
Um, so and that was fantastic. But yeah, I'm truly looking
Hmm.
forward to following the journey for you. This is very exciting. All the
Yeah,
stuff that you have coming up. So thank you very much for making time to
thank you.
chat
Yeah,
and be on
coffee
here
and chat.
within the schedule. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
no,
share
I
it. So
appreciate it as always.
no, this is awesome. So thank you very much, and we'll chat with you soon.
Will do. Can't wait.